Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lydia, I'm your money mentor online, and I am here to talk to you today about catching up if you're behind. So for example, financially, if you are about 40 years old and you don't have anything saved, now is the time to actually make sure that you correct that mistake. So let's talk about that today. So the first thing we want to do is, if you realize that you're at the age of 40 or 50 and you haven't saved enough to actually make sure that you can retire, this is a great video to watch. If you find that you have friends who are in the same position as you, I want you to share this video today and keep watching to the end so we can actually have the key takeaways that you can use to grow your pension pot starting at age 40. Now, of course, the first thing I want to say is everyone should do this in their 20s if they can. Okay. Start your pension as early as possible so that time can work in your favor. I always talk about the fact that investments are like a triangle. The first factor of that triangle is time. The second one is your financial goals. And of course, the third one, the amount of cash you have available. So you need to look at this investment triangle that I'll show you here. Okay, pay attention and make sure that you're looking at it right. So if you're starting at age 40, you're missing out on the fact that you haven't had the time factor of the investment triangle. You're not using that in your favor. You've lost 20 odd years of your working life where you could have made money and put it into a pension. But don't worry. We're going to talk about ways that you can make sure that you get caught up. So the first thing we want to talk about is how much you want to actually have in your retirement pot. If you're 40 and you're going to retire at 65, that means you have 25 years worth of investing, okay, that you can do in that time frame. That is great. 25 years is still good, okay? It's not the same as 45 years if you started at 20, but that's okay. We can still make that work. Let's discuss this. If, for example, you are, as most people are, between the ages of 40 and 50, maybe 40 and 55, those are your prime earning years. What do I mean by that? It means that you earn the most between age 40 and 55. Now, the average salary in the UK, I will put over here, but I want you to take the time and understand that this time frame is the best time for you to save, okay? Because if you look at people between the ages of 18 all the way up to like 38, they're not earning as much as people who are aged between 40 and 55. If you are in this place today, is to make sure that you understand first and foremost that now is the best time to save. The second thing I want you to do is ask yourself, can you afford not to do this? If you don't do it, what's going to happen to you after the age of 65 when you do retire? What would you live on? Would you be willing to downsize from your beautiful home that you bought in your prime earning years into maybe a one-bedroom flat so that you can actually live realistically based on the income that the government would pay you? Could you afford not to? So the first things I'd recommend, once you've figured out what your goal is and what you want to achieve and when you want to retire, now you know your time frame that you're working on. The next thing we want to do is consider getting rid of any debt that you have. Okay? So if your company already offers a 401k or a pension plan, do that. But you also want to make sure that you get out of debt quickly. Why? Because at some point, 25 years from now, if you're at the age of 40, you will not be earning as much as you do right now. So now is a great time to get out of debt. Okay, so let's pay that down first. Deal with debt. Now, make sure also that you get out of debt forever. There's no point taking the time, getting out of debt, and then realizing that you want to do it again. You need that holiday now. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that if you get out of debt, from that point onwards, the money that you used to pay towards the debt would now be used for savings, and you could use it to get that holiday if you wait, if you're patient enough. Then the next thing we're going to do, which is part 3, once we've gotten out of debt, we're going to make our priority to be savings. Saving towards your retirement. Okay? So all those things that you didn't do, or all those things that you want to do that you feel are a priority, set them aside for a minute. Set a target. I want to have X amount in my savings pot, my retirement savings pot, so that I can actually begin to do certain things. So consider this. If you wanted to say, okay, I want to have £50,000 in my savings pot, or £100,000 or £200,000, you would make sure that that portion is allocated towards your savings and your retirement fund now. And you would be able to time yourself as to how long it would take for you to get to that point. So make savings into your retirement pot a priority. Okay? maximize what your company gives you. Maximize what your company gives you. For example, one of the things I've said in the past is that if I set aside £245 and my company pays 183 and HMRC pays me another 61, my £245 that I try to set aside for savings now becomes £490 per month. Okay, with that amount, I'm on a realistic track to be able to get to my goal of where I want to be in my pension plan by a certain age. Okay, if I'm not on the track for that goal, now is the time for me to increase that amount that I was putting in. Okay, so investing in your pension is really important. So the first thing to understand is that if you're in the UK and you have a pension plan, that's great. The government gives you money towards it. If you're in the US, you have a 401k, that is also great. Now, what you need to remember is once that money goes in, it's great if you can take control of it. And so many millionaires are created by people who save into their retirement pot. So it's super important for you to understand. And if you can, read the book, The Millionaire Next Door. I'll put a picture of it up here. It is a great book that explains how normal people who created a habit of saving actually became millionaires through that saving process and through the investing that occurs in their pensions. Okay, so take the time to understand that, read that book, and see how simple, incremental growth of your income can actually place you in a better financial standing. Now, if you don't have a financial advisor, I'd recommend that you consider using one. Okay, it's great because they have a wider eye, but take the time to understand also that they have a commission and calculate how that commission will impact your investments. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Definitely work with someone who understands the market if you're afraid of it or if you don't understand it, but more than anything, take the time to understand what their commission is and how much they're making off your money that you saved. And the reason why I always tell people not to just handle it themselves, if you watch your investments go up or down, the challenge is if you're afraid of seeing it go down, that feeling will make you make decisions that aren't really good. We don't want to make decisions off of our feelings. We want to make decisions based on logic, based on understanding, based on trends, etc. So if you are afraid of growing your money and watching your money go up and down, a financial advisor knows how to do that, understands that very well, and will not be affected by their feelings, but rather they will be able to make logical decisions. So definitely consider a financial advisor if you're afraid of those movements in the market or the movements that will affect your savings or your investments, and have someone else do it for you so that you're not terrified and make wrong decisions. So the last thing I wanted to say is it's not too late to start. It is not too late to start. I promise. I've seen people start, and I think my mom actually started investing towards her retirement probably in her late 40s. Someone pulled her aside and said, "Do you have a pension?" And I'm so glad that person did. And she was able to begin to save, and that pension, even though it wasn't a massive amount, it was enough because it was supplemented by her family and people who she ended up living with and enjoying her life with in such a way. So even though she started late, she had something that she could count on. She rented out her home and she enjoyed living with us. And I enjoyed having her because I was having kids at that time. So it was fantastic to be able to have my mom around when I had my children. So it's never too late to start. Definitely start now if you haven't started. The first place you want to go is you want to go to your employer and say, do you have a pension plan? How do I join? What steps do I need to take? And how much of my money is the minimum that I can put into that pension plan? Okay. So for example, they might tell you can put in 3%. They might tell you can put in 5% as your minimum, but they always have a minimum. So understand what that minimum is. If unfortunately your employer does not have a pension plan, you need to go find one. Do your research online, understand the best pensions and where you can find them, information that will help you make a conscious and logical decision as to where your money goes. What kind of return are you looking for? What kind of stocks do they invest in? What kind of returns have they had over the last 10, 20 years? Make sure that you understand that before you put your money elsewhere. And last but not least, make sure that you understand where your pension is. Okay? Have that information documented, share it with your partner, so that if God forbid you do pass on, that money does not go back to HMRC. It goes to your family. But if they're not informed of it, unfortunately, it won't benefit them. So once you've figured out where you want to put your money, make sure that your partner, your spouse, or your oldest child understands where that money is and how it can be accessed should you pass. we'll wrap up this by saying 3 things. The first thing is I want you to find out what your goals are. The second is to understand how you can achieve them and how much money you need to put aside towards that. And thirdly, speak to a financial advisor. Okay? Understand what the financial advisor can provide, and also understand what your employer provides, and specifically if they provide matching funds towards what you put into your account. Don't take this for granted, ladies and gentlemen. We know that we were promised, for example, by the state or by the government, that we would be able to be taken care of based on the national insurance money that we put in. But now we know, ladies and gentlemen, that the government has had to raise the amount of money that we pay towards national insurance now. Why? Because what was in there wasn't working. So our place is to make sure that if we want to have a financially secure future post-retirement age, we need to do it now. So if you're 40, remember, it's not too late. Now is the time. Make that sacrifice. All the things that you thought you couldn't afford, I promise you, you'll still be able to manage with a lesser budget, as long as you make sure you're setting aside time and money towards your savings and investments. So if you're 40, it's not too late. Get started today. Ask any questions in the chat below, and of course, I will answer as best as I can. I ask 3 things of you before I go. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share this with your friends who haven't started investing yet, so that they can make sure that they are doing the right thing. I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you